Hello there everybody and welcome back to episode 5 of my tutorial series for Dyson Sphere program featuring the Rise of the Dark Fog update. So, last episode we successfully entered the red cube realm. Between the episodes I was successfully researching the X-ray cracking process, which will be the centerpiece of today's episode. We're going to talk about this to get ourselves more hydrogen, which translates into more red cubes, which translates into faster research. This is really important for us. In the meantime, I have ordered up a couple of research projects that will be very important for us. So, namely, I'm researching the distribution logistics system while we're doing this playthrough. I'm going to set up a couple of other technologies in the queue afterwards so our research doesn't run dry. These are all basic materials that we will be requiring in the time being. Oh, wait a sec. We're going to queue this a little bit different. I want the processor technology first. This is going to be something we require for the next episode. Now, these things, for now, it's enough to know that we will need them later, and we don't need to know that much more about them. These are all materials that I will be featuring in upcoming episodes. So, one other thing that I did in between the episodes are these two assemblers. I did... wait a sec. They're somehow not working as intended, or there's still no magnet here. So, I made two assemblers. One for Gauss turrets, and the other one for ammunition for these, because the dark fog is keeping its attacks up and it will level up soon. While currently I just need to move Icarus in front of that thing and the automatic defense system do all of the heavy lifting that we require. This won't stay forever like that, and probably if we get lucky and if not all of the magnets get eaten up by the production for this venue here, well, maybe we will get a few of these bad boys up and running. I also increased, like I always do between the episodes, the total amount of power grid here. It's all currently still running on wind turbines, and as you see here, when we're utilizing the water areas there, we're not really losing any bigger parts of our construction of our factory park here. And even if later we need that land, we can easily cut out the ones that are in our way and use the rest of the terrain here still. So I really love wind turbines, as we are now able to put them down like that with the steel technology. Now, let's get into the actual topic for today, X-ray cracking. This is a technology which takes refined oil and hydrogen and transforms it into more hydrogen and graphite. So this is just really top-notch technology, because currently our oil refineries are really only all about the hydrogen for us. Once we get into future productions like plastic and such, we will of course require the oil for other things as well. But in our current state of affairs, oil is really only a ways and means to get ourselves hydrogen for the red science packs. So we totally don't need the oil for anything else. So that means we're going to be able now to get ourselves the X-ray cracking process started. I just need to empty out my inventory of unwanted fuels here a little bit, things that end up in your inventory. Now let's move on over to the math and understanding of this technology. So X-ray cracking takes 2 pieces of hydrogen and 1 piece of refined oil and mixes them 4 seconds together to churn out 3 pieces of hydrogen and the energetic graphite. That means we use up per second a quarter of oil that is lost forever in the process, and we're also using 0.5 units of hydrogen per second, as we just need to divide that by 4. That means, since we now know that each one of these bad boys here, these refineries here, are procuring a quarter of hydrogen per second, that means we need 1 X-ray cracker per 2 refineries. This means we need, for this complex, we need 2 X-ray crackers because we have 4 refineries, and we have down there the same composition, so we need a grand total of 4 X-ray crackers. So, since the footprint of our factory is still very, very small, we can easily get that ball rolling without needing ourselves to stress out too much. So, let's see. We have the hydrogen highway here. So, we probably should be splitting this off like here, I guess. Let's see. Just considering where I'm going to put up the X-ray cracking. Let's do this for now like that. At the end of the day, I'll leave it up to you how you actually want to do it. The most important thing is that we take the total amount of hydrogen now to a reprocessing trip, so to speak. So, let's see. Did I already bring up foundation? So, I don't think I did, huh? So that's another to-do for the other episode. Well, it ain't that important right now. What's a little bit unfortunate right now is the fact that we have not that much room to work with here. It's a little bit annoying, but, well, we'll have to deal with it. So what we next need is, of course, refined oil. So let's fetch that as well. We pipe it over like there. Let's do this like this. Alright, here go the technologies. So, yeah, I'm not quite happy with my with my footprint here, but, well, for the sake of demonstration, it'll work. All in all, the biggest art in this game, and I'm not over-exaggerating, is to make things compact, effective, and get the most out of your terrain. That is really the grand art of factory games in general, in my humble opinion at least. And it's totally okay to just slap it down haphazardly like I do here. Don't worry about that. You'll just get better while you're doing it. So we're now configuring the X-ray cracking. There we go. So that's only 2 of them. We need 4. Please fit on that. No, it doesn't. Damn. Well, we're going to make it like that then. It's not that much of a big deal. Just a little bit bothered by the iron deposit here on the other side, but whatever. It's not that much of a big deal. So, let's say, yeah, we're going to take away that one next. So, it's very basic. We can just go with the most basic inserters here. There we go. We just have to weave them a little bit like that to make sure that they'll work while they're on opposite ends. If you have them only one lane, it doesn't really match. Okay, so we then have an output belt again. Just like that. And like this. And for now, we're just going to weave that belt here like that. We might be changing that sometime later in the future. But the good thing about this game is always keep in mind that you can pick up everything and place it down somewhere else, so you're never really binding yourself to anything. If I had the foundation right now, I would have cemented this area here instead, but well, sometimes you gotta work with what you got, or you just slip on over to your mall and fix up some foundation. I just don't do that right now for the sake of the length of the tutorial, but I also like to showcase that improvisation is okay in these games. And well, so the inner lane gets the hydrogen, the outer lane gets the graphite. So there we go. Let's configure that the same way here. Inner goes like that. Outer goes like that. And now we can just left shift, left click. Just copy that because it's a lot easier. So here we cannot do that because the inserters on that end are acting differently. So we're going to manually place that. It's because of the opposite positioning there. Now, let's get back to the math. The neat part about all that is, and if we get back to the recipe of the energy matrix, we need hydrogen and energetic graphite in equal parts. That means this recipe does provide all the ingredients for red cubes. It's just basically really as if it's made for refining hydrogen into red cubes. Maybe that was the entire intention of the devs. In short terms, that means we don't need to add in any extra energetic graphite now after that upgrade. Because we might be now able to upgrade our production, because before we had a production of 2 hydrogen per second, one from the refinery here, one from the other, and we now have upgraded the production from 2 per second to 3 per second, because the X-ray cracking process basically gives you 50% more of your hydrogen, as you see there. So all in all, this means now that we can go over there and put up another 3 labs, because we have now a production of 1 hydrogen extra and the energetic graphite. That really amps up our research production by a lot. So let's crank these productions together. There goes the energetic graphite. And I'll be linking this together like, let's see. I went a little bit more upstairs now like before. Because here at this point we needed a little bit more of a higher curvature, obviously. And then we'll take the hydrogen and spaghetti it up over to the other place. Just like that, right? So, as you see, working in close corners can be sometimes really a delicate task. And here, the curvature of the planet is starting to gimp us a little bit. All right. So what we're doing here is we're pressing the upward arrow and just go up and above. Just like that. So, yeah, you should always try to avoid convoluted regions like these. This is, for example, a bad habit. The more you have in these in your factory, the worse it'll be if you want to expand in that corner. I mean, it might not happen ever, but I personally don't see that as a clean and good way of working. So, now, the hydrogen highway now goes into the X-ray cracking facility, and the X-ray cracking facility just puts out more hydrogen in response of that. That's just as simple as it is. And since we have here a production of 2 energetic graphite per second, we now need to top off, or we now need to produce the, or set up the 3 labs, so the production is being picked up. This is very important, but I want to explain that in a hot second why. First, we should just quickly set up the complex here. So, why can't I copy that? Well, whatever, we're just going to manually that, and after all, it's a very simple process. Okay, so here's one thing that is very, very important when you're doing X-ray cracking. Since the machines cannot work further if any of these outputs is clogged, it is of vital importance that you use up whatever goes out of these machines. That means if I would have, for example, here 2 more of these smelters, and I'd be providing too much coal out of this source, eventually these bad boys here would not have any room to put out their energetic graphite anymore, because the system is already being overfed from this angle, which would ultimately lead to a stop of your hydrogen production. So it's really important that when you use this technique, that you have a exact calculation that it's a zero-sum game with the energetic graphite. The graphite is not allowed to be positive in the production cycle. Otherwise, yeah, you'll be running out of, you'll be not getting any hydrogen anymore, because the refineries will not be producing anything as long as this slot is not empty. If that ever happens, this only means that you have too many of these guys here involved in the system, and you just need to remove a couple of them, and that's all. So we have now production of a whopping, let's see, let's calculate that. How many red cubes do we make per second now? So that is 6 of these produce 1 red cube per second. That means 3 of these produce half a red cube per second, so we're now at 1.5 red cubes per second. This is, for a beginner factory, a really decent output. You clearly can do better than that, but at this point I must friendly remind you of the fact that your energy generation capacity is relatively low. If you're still relying like me on wind power, you just need to plant up so many more wind turbines to just satisfy the energy consumption of that alone. So right now, we're technologically not really capable of stemming our way up to a much larger operation. The only thing that I personally would see as a smart thing to do would be to get this up to 2 red cubes per second. That is something that you can take as a solid milestone on your path upwards to the higher technology levels. So with that done, we can also now leave it like that. We can also just acquire another oil seep. Like if we'd be putting up another one of these things, we would be able to fulfill the 2 cubes per second. I might be doing that between the episodes. We'll see about that. Either way, we are now capable of getting into the next chapter. So the next big chapter that I'll be dedicating the entire next episode about will be the logistics distributors. I don't want to cram that into this episode, though, as this is really something bigger. But what we already can prepare today are processors. So processors are a high-end or a high-quality intermediate product that requires us to produce something that we don't have yet, and that is microcrystalline components. These are something special as they need high purity silicon. Silicon is a material that is not native on our planet. It's the very first time that we're running into a material that is not available on our home planet, and that's where things get exciting. So luckily, silicon is, though, acquirable in ore areas by just smelting together stone, and after we're using up a really huge amount of stone, we gain 1 unit of silicon ore. We pick up 2 units of silicon ore and put these together into high purity silicon, and then we finally can make processors after we use that silicon to make microcrystalline components out of that. So this is the first production chain that is already quite lengthy. We need to go through a couple of hoops to get there, and the worst part here is that we're currently not able to get that silicon ore natively. If we press V and get into the solar system overview, so if we look at our neighboring planet Simbay 1, this one hosts 1 million units of silicon ore there. The other planet over here, Simbay 4, hosts a total amount of 1.2 million pure silicon ore. So we will be eventually capable to pick that up from other planets, but for starters, we really need to rely on the local sources and make that stuff turn into silicon. So let's do that real quick. It's a very simple thing, but I meant to feature that, as it is the first of these complex processing chains where you actually can think about a lot of things. Oh, for example, why do I forget my mining machines? Now, jokes aside, the food for thought here is as follows. When you're doing processing chains like these, you should be always aware of the fact that you are acting highly inefficient. Yeah, of course, there's really lots of stone to go around on this planet. We have a grand total of 5 million pieces of stone. But you got to consider the following. These 5 million pieces of stone are only 500,000 pieces of silicon ore, if we would be condensing that. And these 500,000 pieces of silicon ore would only be 250,000 pieces of plate. So the ratio here is horrible. But at the beginning of the game, it's totally fine to live with that ratio and just take it as it is, because it'll take way too long to get ourselves to the actual other income of silicon to not use this technique. We just need the processors too badly, so to say. It's just too important right now. That's why we're going on with this method. You will have this sort of interaction in Dyson Sphere program relatively often. There are several high-tech materials that can be produced very easy in a certain way and very difficult in another way. So this is part of making planets attractive, I guess, and inspiring you to make intergalactic logistic chains. We'll be getting there, promise. So we're just going to put down some electricity down to the mining outpost, nothing special. So let's look at that conversion rate of silicon more closely. All right, we have the stone output, and we're filling up the entire belt completely here. So we have an income of 6 pieces of stone per second. Let's place down the first of our arc smelters and start looking at the recipe. So here we have a consumption rate of 1 stone per second. Yeah, 1 stone per second. That means we can put up 6 of these smelters, and ultimately we'll be putting out 0.6 pieces of silicon ore per second. That feels so bad, but it's the best we can do. And for our current state of affairs, this is actually not as bad as it sounds. We can make a lot of out of that happen. You can make out of that silicon also solar panels. I personally despise doing that before having access to the other planets. Solar panels are the other green source of energy. They're really powerful, and well, in all honesty, it is totally okay to craft enough solar panels for your starter planet, like here, via condensing silicon ore, but I made the experience that I personally felt like I was wasting time with that. I felt like it was way more effective to just work with wind power until I have the ability to pick up the silicon from the other planets and create solar panels way faster. Because another downside of this method here is it is not only material inefficient, it is also darn slow. You know, every one of these processes needs 10 seconds to finish. So we're really darn slow with that process as well. So lots of reasons for me not to rely too much on it, but it is a solid means to an end. That is something that I still want to emphasize here. It is what we use at this stage of the game. I personally don't feel like it is a smart choice to use this as a foundation for a solar panel power supply. That is because to use solar power really smartly, you either have to put a belt around the equator, around the entire planet, so 50% of the solar panels will always be in light and the other 50% in shadow. That is, if your planet is spinning like the Earth. Not a given factor. Or the other method that you can do is you can plaster the polar caps with solar panels, because it's the same logic. One polar cap is usually in sun, and the other one is in darkness. But as we see here, the dark fog is noping out this method, and the other thing is this requires quite a lot of solar panels. And by the time that I have produced these, I usually have access to other planets already. That's just my personal 5 cents about that topic, because I've seen a lot of talk about this, whether or not you should do that. If you don't mind the waiting, though, it's totally fine to do so. That's my personal verdict. Now, we are here at the point where we just need one singular smelter, because we're not even fulfilling the need of that one singular smelter in terms of silicon ore with the current state of operations. You could now, of course, multiply this. Like, if you take this times 3, you can pretty much let 2 of these smelters run. But here we are again at the problematic of the power consumption. The arc smelters are some of your hungriest power consumers. They are just, smelting metal is eating up a lot of power. They are at 360 kilowatt per second, so miners aren't cheap either. Just to compare, assembling machines are a tad bit lower on consumption to compare to the arc smelters. And we would need a lot of arc smelters here to get the solar panel production rolling. Now, enough about that. I think I've made my point clear enough. Okay, so we now need microcrystalline components, and that requires copper. So let's see, do we have any copper that we can procure locally? Doesn't seem so. All right, so we're going to use one of my favorite little tools that we have at our disposal. We're just going to interrupt that thing here and put in a narrow little splitter, just like that. Restore the original connection, press the up arrow, and we're piping off some copper for that task, just like that. This is, I love this technique, this is, you can fork off materials this way, wherever you want, wherever you need it. It's just there for you. And since you can use a real large amount of layers, it's really that good. So I just realized that we're starting to hit our comfort zone here, so we're going to relocate that thing here. Let's say we're going to let that roll this way and just reverse the path of the belt so we can pick it up afterwards. Okay, so copper and the silicon plate is available, and now we're crafting the microcrystalline component there. And, well, looks like we're going to get ourselves some circuit board on this road here as well, so we can have a miniature circuit factory back there. This will be enough for us to begin with, and I am not connecting this little facility on purpose to the main grid, because with the next episode we're going to talk about the distribution network, which will allow us to do plenty of things that we can't do yet. But I'd say I'll leave this episode at this point. We're going to go here like that. And I'll be just building this little facility in between the episodes. I don't think that there is that much to talk about it as of now, as we already know how these things work, and we are nowhere near capable of providing a stable throughput of material here. We're not going to be able to provide a silicon plate per second or like that. But what we will be able to do is we are able to provide a steady throughput of processors. So that'll be that. I'll be finishing up this little complex on this side up until it is producing processors, and I'll be back with more right there. So what has happened to our research location. So as you see there, from time to time, you just need to fix things. And here it is that, obviously, yeah, the coal is clogged up. So I'll be checking out what's going on with that. I mean, we obviously don't have too much production there. There's just too much on the line. I'll be fixing that up and let you know what was the culprit there in the next episode. And I mean, I'm quite happy that this happened because it documents perfectly what I've been talking about. Because as you see there, once you unclog the system of the overproduction of coal, everything works out smoothly again. Now then, my friends, thanks for watching. Drop me your comments down below. I'm very, very sorry that there was such a long pause between this and the last episode. I just have so many games to cover, but I'll be coming back to finish this series, and we'll be covering the logistics grid in the next episode. Thanks so much for being around. Drop me your comments down below. Thanks for pushing me always a little bit further. Ha! Ha! There is the culprit. This thing was outputting, and that was why the production was imbalanced. I'll be repeating that at the beginning of the next episode. Leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, check out the description box, there's plenty of links down there. Among these, the playlist for the series, if you just jumped in on this episode, there you can go for a beginning of that one. There's Discord, where you find like-minded gamers like me and other people who love factory games. And there's also Twitch, where I stream each Sunday evening in Middle European time zone. And of course, last but not least, there's also Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee. I deeply appreciate you guys are supporting this series so hard. I really, really, really appreciate. Thank you so much. And we'll be coming back next episode. Thanks a lot for watching this series and watching this episode up until the moment after all the ad rolls. You're a champ. Thanks for being around. See you all next time. Bye-bye.